The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Longman Simplified English Series. Read by TAnyarat Krudtung. Chapter 11. On the Islands. When Tom awoke in the morning, he wondered where he was. He sat up and rubbed his eyes and looked aloud. Then he remembered it was the cool, grey dawn, and there was a delightful sense of peace in the deep calm and silence of the wood. Not a leaf stirred. Dewdrops stood upon the leaf and grass. A white layer of ashes covered the fire, and a blue trace of smoke rose straight into the air. Joe and Huck still slept. Now, far away in the wood, a bird called. Another answered. Gradually the cool, dim grey of the morning whitened, and as gradually sounds multiplied and revealed itself, the marvel of nature shaking off sleep and going to work unfolded itself to the boy. A little green worm kept crawling over a door left. Tom sat as still as a stone, with his hopes rising and falling as the creature still came toward him, or showed a tendency to go elsewhere. When it finally came down upon Tom's legs and began a journey over him, his whole heart was great, for that meant that he was going to have a new suit of clothes. Without a shadow of doubt, a glorious periodical uniform. Now a procession of ants appeared and went about their labors. One started with a dead spider 5 times as big as itself and dragged its strength up a tree trunk. A tiny supported beetle clambered up the great height of grass blade, and Tom bent down close to it and said, Lady Bird, fly away home. Your house is on fire. Your children alone. She flew off to see about it. We did not surprise the boy, for he had long known that the Lady Bird was always ready to believe stories about fires. The birds were singing merrily by now. One swept down a flash of blue flame and stopped on a branch almost within the boy's reach. It leaned its head to one side and eyed the strangers with immense curiosity. Our nature was wide awake. Long beams of sunlight pierced down through the leafy branches, and a few butterflies came dancing upon the scene. Tom roused the other pirates, and in a minute or two they were catching after and falling over each other in the shallow water of the sandbar. The current had carried off their laughter, but this only delighted them, since its going was something like burning the bridge between them and civilization. They came back to camp wonderfully refreshed and as hungry as hoovers. They soon had the campfire brushing up again. Huck found a spring of clear cold water, cooled by and boys made cups of leaf. Tom and Huck stepped to a provision placed on the river bank and threw in their fishing lines. Almost immediately, they had their reward, enough fish for a family. They fried the fish and were astonished, for no fish had ever seemed so delicious before. They did not know that the quicker a freshwater fish is on the fire after it is caught, the better is it. And they did not stop to think that sleeping, exercise, and bathing in the open air had given them an excellent appetite. They lay about in the shade after breakfast while Huck had a smoke and then went off through the woods exploring. They found plenty of things to be delighted with, but nothing to be astonished at. They had a swim every hour, so it was about the middle of the afternoon when they got back to camp. They were too hungry to stop to fish, but they had a good meal of meat and threw themselves down in the shade to talk. But the talk soon began to dark and then died. The quietness that hung over the woods and the sense of loneliness began to have an effect on the spirits of the boys. A vague longing crept upon them. This took dim-shaped presently is what budding homesickness. Even Finn, the last hand, was dreaming of his doorsteps and his empty barrels, but they were all ashamed of their weakness, and none was brave enough to say what was in his mind. For some time now, the boys had heard a peculiar sound in the distance. On hearing a louder sound, the boys started, glanced at each other inquiringly, and listened. There was a long silence, deep and unbroken. Then a dull sound came floating down out of the distance. "What is it?" asked Joe in a whisper. "Let's go and see," said Tom. They sprang to their feet and hurried to the bank facing the village. They parted the bushes and peered out. The little steam ferry boat was not transporting people from bank to bank unusual, but was about a mile below the village. Her deck seemed crowded with people. There were many small boats being loud about or floating with the current in the neighborhood of the ferry boat, but the boy could not see what the men in them were doing. After a time there was a puff of white smoke from the side of the ferry boat, and as it lost in a lazy cloud, that same dull sound was borne through the license again. "I know now!" exclaimed Tom. "Somebody's down." "That's it," said Huck. "They did that last summer when Bill Turney was drowned. They shoot a big gun over the water, and that makes the body come up to the surface." The boys continued to listen and watch. Then a little wing flashed through Tom's mind, and he exclaimed, "Boys, I know who are drowned. We are." They felt like heroes in an instant. They were being wept over. Hearts were breaking for them, and beat out. They were the talk of the whole town, and the envy of all the boys. This was jealous. It was worthwhile being a pirate, after all. As twilight drew on, the ferry boat went back to her accustomed business, and the rowing boats disappeared. The pirates returned to camp. They were swollen with vanity over their new importance and the great trouble that they were causing. They caught fish, cooked supper and ate it, and then began to guess what the village was thinking and saying about them. But when the shadows of night crossed around them, they gradually ceased to talk and sat gazing into the fire with their minds evidently wandering elsewhere. The excitement had gone now, and Tom and Joe could not keep out truths of the 10 persons at home who were not enjoying their fight adventures as much as they were. Aside or through escaped unawares. Tom, said Joe, he stays singly. Pilots do go home sometimes, don't they? Tom poured scorn upon him. Huck had not said a word on the subject and was therefore free to join in with Tom. Joe made excuse and firmly then that he was suffering from homesickness or that he wished to desert. As the night deepened, Huck began to nod and presently fell asleep. Joe followed next. Tom lay watching the two for some time. At last he got up cautiously and went searching among the grass in the dim light of the campfire. He picked up and inspected several large pieces of the thin white bark of a tree and finally caught two. Then he knelt by the fire and wrote some things on each of these in pencil. One he rolled up and put in his coat pocket, and the other he put in Joe's cap, together with certain invaluable schoolboy teachers, amongst them a piece of check, a rubber ball, 3 fish hooks, and special kind of marble. Then he tripped away.